Hello everyone. Welcome to our program. And with us today is Vy from Coco AAPI Coalition. It's good to have you here, Vy.
Thank you, and it's pronounced V.
Oh, V. Thank you for your correction.
No problem.
So before we get into our interview today, could you tell our audience a bit about yourself? I mean, I have read your bio, but it's just a short version for our viewers.
Sure. Right now, I am the director and founder of the Contra Costa API Advocacy Coalition. I think I'll get into this during the questions, but I started this coalition in response to COVID. And I have been organizing communities since I was 14, 15. So it's been some time now, at least 10 years. I won't say exactly how long that's been, but it's been some time. I started this when I was a young teenager, and I never stopped. This isn't the first time that I've built a coalition. This is, I think, maybe the third group that I've built over time. But it's by far been my favorite. And I am originally from San Jose, California. I went to the University of California, Berkeley, and studied social welfare and political economy. And just happy to be here.
Right, thank you for the introduction. And so I was browsing through your website earlier, and I saw that there's a lot of mentioning of building a unified AAPI community. So can I ask you, what value do you see in a unified AAPI community?
Sure. Thank you for your question. Well, I will first like to just address that we are, as much as we have similarities, we also have differences, right? The API community is not just one community, it's multiple communities. And I think those differences are worth respecting, definitely acknowledging. And, I think that there are times when our different communities need to work separately in order to, care for our communities in the way that would be, best. So I just want to acknowledge that right away. But I also think that there are times when it is beneficial for all of us to come together in order to just have the manpower, the numbers, in order to go for bigger goals. Now, in relationship to Contra Costa specifically, when I first moved to Contra Costa, one of the first things that I noticed is that it's very diverse. There's many different ethnic groups, many different API groups in the county. And there are many groups that have done a very good job of organizing and supporting their specific ethnic community. And many of those people are a part of our coalition now. But what I noticed is that there was no opportunity for all of us to come together on the same day to do the same thing. And the opportunity came when, during COVID, the county health department decided that they wanted to create these different work groups. So there's an African American work group, there's a Latinx work group, there's a young adult and youth work group, an older adult work group. And I was very shocked to see that the Asian American Pacific Islander community was left off that list. So I spoke up, and that's how I ended up getting volunteered to lead this coalition. And I think that we definitely have made a lot of waves so far because of the numbers that we have and the visibility. So I think that's one of the key reasons why sometimes coming together and unifying under diversity, is a good thing.
That is a great answer. Yeah, thank you. And I do agree that it is hard to bring all the communities together when you have that many different organizations within this community of Contra Costa. So okay, so let's move on to the AAPI Mental Health Advocacy Program, which I heard your organization has a part in it. So how would you describe the current situation of mental health among the AAPI community?
Sure. Well, I think mental health has always been an issue in the AAPI community. It certainly was an issue when I was growing up, and that was, a while ago. And I've been told by Gigi, the executive director of NAMI, that during COVID, we saw a lot more, the instances for Asian Pacific Islander people struggling with their mental health was increased because of the anti-Asian hate movement, because of the lack of resources and that further isolation that people were feeling. So I mean, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but I have a feeling it probably has gotten worse since COVID started. And yes, and I think health and mental health is just health like anything else. So, this is definitely something that we should all be prioritizing just as much as we would prioritize getting our blood checked or our eyes examined.
So regarding mental health, I did see that you have worked in many different public health programs that your organization worked in, relevant to COVID, relevant to sexual abuse. And of all the problems that your organization tried to tackle, where do you think mental health would sit in terms of importance?
Sure. I think the answer to that is that they're all equally important. I wouldn't choose anything over the other. And they are all equal because they all work in a circle together. They all interconnect. So, you mentioned we have a domestic violence and sexual assault prevention program. And that is geared towards our Nepali and Laotian community. It was very unfortunate to hear that during COVID, you had many episodes of, people who were mainly, most likely women who were in, domestically abusive, violent relationships, which, anybody suffering, going through that experience is probably going to have issues with their mental health. So, mental health decline. But because it was COVID and everything was locked down, that forced people to stay indoors with their abusers. And that makes, the domestic violence worse and then their, mental health worse. So it all connects in a big circle. That's why you see that within my coalition, we have different types of programs for different things, because our mission is to ensure the health and wellness of the API community holistically. That means addressing a little bit of everything.
And just out of my own curiosity, what other health issues do you think are connected to mental health problems? And can you elaborate a bit on how they are connected?
Definitely. Substance abuse is like one of the other problems. We don't have a substance abuse program, but in my experience working in sort of in larger public health settings, so substance abuse is definitely an issue. Unfortunately, you hear a lot when it comes to domestically abusive, violent relationships. Alcohol is usually a part of that somehow. So substance abuse and usage is a part of that. I was also I was a volunteer suicide prevention counselor for the Alameda Crisis Line. So, issues of, self-harm and suicidality, that's a part of mental health as well. And this, I'm not a mental health clinician, so I can't say I know too much about this, but I do know that there is some connections between mental health and physical health. And if anything, I could just attest personally, because I also struggle with mental health. And that has definitely taken a real physical toll on my body. I'm in physical therapy right now because of the issues that I've experienced.
Yeah, I could understand that. I mean, I have read your bio and I knew what you personally went through physically and mentally. So I do feel your pain a lot. And I myself also once struggled with mental health problems, and arguably I am still now. So I am very glad to see that there's a mental health advocacy program dedicated to my people. So again, I'm very grateful for your efforts in this area. So for my next question is, well, it's also kind of related to my previous questions, which is, what do you want to achieve with this program? What would be an ideal outcome for you to establish an AAPI mental health advocacy program?
Yeah. So I think the goal is, the ideal goal is to change systems. So I would, describe that as like changing the tides. So the tides are turning in our favor instead of all of us having to swim upstream against the tide individually. I think that my vision, so if that's the goal, the long-term vision is to create a community, a situation, a just setting where we don't need these resources. So one of the, I come from the prevention world, and it's a public health world. And, I think that there's always that tension between sort of the crisis response, responding to people right now and preventing things from happening later on. And I think we kind of, at least my goal in this coalition and this our work is to sort of hold both. We need to respond to the immediate needs of people who are suffering right now, but we need to sort of think larger and longer. And, and I think the vision is a world where, we won't need to have these mental health services because everyone will be well adjusted and healthy. And that's obviously a very long-term thing. But, I think it's keeping that eye on that goal is very important.
Right, thank you. That's a very majestic goal to reach. And I do hope that vision will someday come into reality. In terms of improving mental health awareness, what do you think is the most effective way of improving mental health awareness? And could you tell us how your program aims to achieve that?
Sure. I think this question is, it looks different for each community, but I will say that in my experience, similar to my last answer, there needs to be a combination between working with people directly, and I hope that through this program, that is the start of that. We are working, Tiffany and Shelley are working, with these 25 cohort members. And, it's starting at 25, but the idea is that when you empower the first 25 people, they're going to go and they're going to empower, the next 25 people. And it continues to grow, along. I think that my experience working with the AAPI community, some communities, it's considered a best practice to leverage people that they trust. And I think that's very common among everyone, but it's targeting the people who have influence, like the elders, people who have the influence and that other people look to, getting them on board to be, to vouch for the legitimacy of these issues and this, these projects is very important.
It sounds like you have everything worked out. You have a good plan and a very achievable plan, actually. So, however, I still have to ask, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you see in this program?
Sure. I think for this program, the biggest challenge would be getting policymakers and influential leaders and really the people who have the ability and the power to make this change and the people that we are trying to sort of court and getting them to be there to really engage and actually be there genuinely to engage and listen to the community and not just coming because like I or somebody else strong armed them to come, and really just genuinely being an active listener and an ally and wanting to, okay, I've listened to these concerns now. I feel like I got to do something about it. That for me is a bit of a concern. And but I'm hopeful that the interviews and like this and other media projects that we're working on, people are going to feel more feel more like they need to be there for the right reasons.
Yeah, I agree. Engagement is it's always a big issue in all campaigns. So I do hope you have a strong channel and a strong message that would invite people to engage in your cause. All right. So my last question is also kind of a selfish question. So say if I want to get mental health training provided by your organization, how can I get in touch and get help from say NAMI CCAAPI?
Sure. And the quick answer to that is that I would direct you to contact Tiffany and Shelley, who you've met, and NAMI Contra Costa specifically, because I just want to be clear, the coalition, which I'm the leader of, the coalition is not a mental health agency. Like, we are not mental health experts. That's why we partner with NAMI Contra Costa, who are the mental health experts. So really, it's the idea is to go to them but the coalition, we are sort of the convener of everyone. We're kind of like the magnet that just brings everyone together. We do have a website that we just finished revising, and we do have a phone number, and we have a Google form that is our member interest form. We also just have an email. So if anybody who is looking for resources in Contra Costa, or even before that, I know NAMI is nationwide, like beyond that, NAMI is nationwide. You know, anybody who reaches out to us, we will do our best to connect them with someone who, you know, are experts and will be able to support them.
Sounds like you have a very well planned out program, and it does look like it's quite easy for me to get involved in the cause. So I do wish that this program will realize your vision for it. So
Right.
again, thank you for your time today, for being here, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much, Donna. It's all mine. And yeah, I think we might run into each other with some other things later on.
Yes,
So thank
yeah,
you.
I certainly hope so. Thank you.